Hi guys, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Clangin and Bangin with Mikey, episode 270. And I always say this a lot, man, but it's true. Love on people who love on you. Um, love on people who communicate with you. And when I say love on people, I mean romantically, whether you're in a relationship or not, or platonically, whatever it is. It's like I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, multiple friends of mine, in the last couple of days. And one of my homeboys is asking me like, "Oh, how come you can't, just be there for an individual, no matter what the situation is?" I was like, "Well, it all depends, bro. Because like you're talking about the romantic, romantic relationship, whatever it is like, let's say you and your significant other go through a breakup, whatever it is, and you try to reconcile, just and maybe you do, maybe you don't, and hey, who knows? It might work out, maybe it doesn't. Um, but in reality, is like you can't keep continuously holding space for somebody who doesn't want it. You can't keep holding space for somebody who clearly shows you that they don't want you in that capacity or at all in their life. And it's like stop thinking that it's gonna be more than what it is. And I broke it down to him too, and I said like, yeah, man, it's like you have to realize that a lot of your stuff, everybody has an expiration date. In relationships, friendships, jobs, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Like everybody has an expiration date, whether they want to admit it or not. Um, and I think that's where a lot of people get, they falter at. They think, oh, what if I love on this person harder, if I do X, Y, and Z harder, they'll finally see my worth. And it's like they're not going to. Um, Stop thinking that people will finally see you for who they are. And I was literally on the phone earlier this morning talking to a homegirl about that too, and she's like, yeah, you know what? Honestly, it's like it doesn't matter if you're male or female, whatever it is, gay, hetero, heterosexual, lesbian. It doesn't matter. Um, if people want to spend time with you, they will make time for you. You know, they'll sit there and like clear their schedule, even if for a couple hours a day. You know, if it's like one day on a Saturday, and like they can carve out 2 hours to spend with you, take that. You know, because that's somebody making an effort to constantly show up to be in your life. That's not somebody who's using you, manipulating you, whatever it is. What it comes down to is like a lot of people will waste time, you know, or they'll sit there and be like, "Oh yeah, it's X, Y, and Z, it's yada yada yada, whoop de whoop," and the reality is like no, it's like a lot of people will waste your time because they love the attention, or they love the fact that they're getting attention, or they love the fact that they, finally have what they've been missing, and you have to be really careful about that because majority of people like that. I'm not saying that they're bad people, but they can be bad for you mentally, physically, psychologically. They will, they can fuck up your entire life, if you let them. Now, and there's nothing wrong with saying, "Oh, I'm gonna always be here," you know, to support you, whatever it is. But I am not gonna be here in that space where you're gonna monopolize all my time. And one of my homegirls said something too. She's like, yeah, like there's a difference between loving a platonic friend and loving an ex, you know, and an ex lover. And I was like, yeah. And so she went on, she went on to break it down. She's like the level of care that you're there for, you know, and it's like how you respond to certain situations. And my homegirl said the same thing too. She's like, yeah, like the reason why your ex is not talking to you is not because that she doesn't want to per se. It's because you're gonna tell her exactly what she doesn't want to hear, and she can't handle that. You know, she can't handle being told, the truth of the situation. You know, she can't handle being told, oh, X, Y, and Z, this is what you have to do. Whereas a lot of my friends will call me. They were like, "Hey, Mikey, what you up? Boom, 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 yada yada, whoop de whoop." And it's like I'll tell them exactly what it is. It's like I remember a good friend of mine. He kept going through the same issues with his girl, and I'm like, bro, it's like, how many times can you go through the same situations with somebody before you get tired of dealing with that? You know, how much energy can you spend in a situation where you're like, yo, it's like, okay, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and this is still not enough. So whatever it is that I'm doing, it's not working because I'm still getting the same result. I'm still getting um the insecurities and the doubts, the fears, all that stuff, right? And that's normal in any relationship. But what's not normal is when people try to project onto you their shortcomings and their and their fears, their doubts, because it's like it's not your job to sit there and um find a homeostasis for this other individual. It's not. It's not your job to balance out their life. It's not your job to make it less chaotic. Your job is to show up and be who you are. Show up and be that calming presence. That show up and be that particular aura that you have is like that people get attracted to. Um, and it's just interesting because people will not realize that, and then they want to get caught up in the situation, and it's like, oh, it's like if you would have just paid attention to the signs and if you would have just listened to what other people were trying to tell you, because a lot of the times people will give you advice. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to um that you have to abide by that advice or that you have to do X, Y, and Z, because you don't. um and it's okay to sit there and think that um you know it's okay to sit there and replay certain situations in your head or whatever it is, because I remember somebody that I know, they got blocked by their ex, their exes, right? And it happened to be a girl, and I told this girl, I was like, yo, it was like, you realize how annoying that you had to be to do that, you know? She's like, what? I was like, yeah. For you to get blocked, that tells the other individual, and because you talk to 100% of dudes, you know, 99 of them ain't gonna block you, for whatever reason. And that one guy who does block you, is like, because he's tired of it. It's like there is always somebody else out there. No matter how pretty the girl is, no matter how banging of a body she has, there are guys out there who are just tired of dealing with her. You know, and that's what that is. It's like you don't get to play havoc in somebody else's life and then get upset when that other individual has nothing to do with you. You know, and it's like I remember this individual was telling me, well, like he's hanging out with such and such. Okay, okay, cool. Why you checking their page? Why you doing X, Y, and Z? You know what I mean? It's like, why are you obsessing over that, right? Because to me, it just doesn't make any sense. Because heartbreak at any age, it sucks. Getting left sucks. Um, not knowing how to deal with your emotions is absolutely horrible. Not realizing that that you're the cause of your own issues is catastrophic. And when you do realize that you're the cause of your own issues, is like you end up like, yeah, like I'm glad you fucking finally picked up on that. I'm glad you realized that. Because a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, all this other shit, X, Y, and Z, yada yada yada. And the reality is like it has nothing to do you know, with everything that's been going on. It's like what it is the fact that, like I said, people get tired. They get tired of the insecurities. They get tired of dealing with stuff that they've been accused of doing that they're not doing. Um, I, for one, I've been accused of cheating. I've been accused of doing X, Y, and Z. In reality, it's like you have no proof. And even if you did have proof, what you going like? Number one, I'm not a cheater, so I don't see the point of being in a relationship with somebody and spending all that extra energy and time to two-time on them. And I've been told once too, like, you know, well, we wasn't in a relationship, but yada yada yada. I'm like, okay, cool. A lot of the times, people will tell you that shit just to, just to safeguard their own feelings. Just to try to dig, try to stick the knife in your back because oh, like they say, well, if I say something hurtful with you, it's gonna cause him to flip out and do X, Y, and Z. It's like no, like that just means that you're incapable of controlling your own emotions. Like I hate to break it to you, but people who say shit like that is like, yo, it's like no, it's like for you not wanting to acknowledge that, that means that you're in denial. You know, like you may sit there and say, oh, all this extra shit, but in reality, is that it's not that. In reality, it's not the fact that somebody may or may not have been in a relationship with you, or maybe that's your way of coping with that shit because you don't want to deal with the repercussions of having another failed relationship or whatever it is. But at the same time, it's like you don't you don't say hurtful shit like that and expect the person to be like, okay, cool, whatever. Yeah, that's something that a lot of emotionally unintelligent and emotionally not available and emotionally unmature people will say. And it was funny because no, well, not funny, but I was on the phone earlier with my homegirl, and so we were looking up divorce rates and everything too, and because one of her family members is getting married, and like it said, like the divorce rates for first time couples are like 40 to 50%. And like, if you break it down by age, it's even worse. And if there's like a 5 to 10 year gap, there's the percentage of how big of the gap is actually um is actually it's a more likelihood that you're gonna get divorced. And it's like I've seen people get married for a year and get divorced. I've seen people be married for 45 years and get served divorce papers in the mail. So at the end of the day, it's about growing with the other individual. Because one of the OGs that I talked to, he's like, yeah, man. He's like, and mind you, he was in his 60s, and I was in my 20s at the time, and he was married for like 40, like almost 40 years. So I asked dude, I'm like, hey, man, like how you do it? I mean, he's like, man, you gotta grow with them. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, it's like that girl that you married in your 20s, she's not gonna be the same in her 30s, 40s, or 50s. And it's like you gotta realize that every year, every decade, people grow, they change. You know, it's not gonna be carefree or whatnot. It's not gonna be everything that it was because it's physically impossible to recreate that time frame, right? It's like this one person I know. Uh, they had a baby in the mid 30s, and now they're in their 40s, and like they want to do date night, and like she was telling me, oh, X, Y, and Z, like, oh well, yada yada yada. I'm like, well, like, it sounds like you want free babysitting from your family members, and it's like that's not fair to them, you know. And because you decided to have a baby, and now you want to go out there and just live your life, and and date and do all this other stuff, and it's like nobody told you to have a kid, and you're expecting somebody else to sit there and be that space for you when it's not the when it's not possible, when it number one is not their responsibility, and number two is you're asking somebody to stop living their life just to make sure that you can live yours. It's like no. I said, like, if that's the case, if you want to date your significant other or have date night once a month, go hire a sitter. You know, stop expecting other people just because they're family to 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 what's the word I'm looking for, to help you out when it's not even disguised as help. What it is it's you not wanting to understand that this is your problem that you have to deal with. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that people don't they don't understand that you made a lifetime commitment or lifestyle change. And I hate it when people say who have kids like, well, like you don't understand it because you don't have kids. I'm like, I understand that you're not happy. I understand that, like, you know, that you're stressed out. I understand that you don't have the wherewithal or the common sense to realize that the choice is yours to have a kid. And it's always interesting to me too, is like, especially when women get divorced. And I know this, this podcast episode is going off the rails a little bit, but I'm reaching an age where like everybody who got married in their 20s and 30s, they're now getting divorced. Literally. I can count on more than one hand how many people got married who are now divorced. And what's sad is that a lot of people will sit there and complain about how their significant, how their other half, who they've had kids with, they ain't shit. And I'm like, no, but it also falls back on you too. Like you don't get to sit there and chastise somebody else when you've made horrible, decisions too, where your discernment is absolutely shit. You know, and it's always something that, excuse me, it's always something that people don't understand, because it's like, yeah, it's like, why would you sit there and do that? Or why would you think that that's necessary? It's like, because if you're sitting there having a situation like that, or dealing with a situation like that, let's say that you're dealing with a cheater, um why would you continuously stay? Or let's say you're dealing with somebody who can't manage your money correctly. It's always, accounts always near zero, or it's always overdraft, whatever it is. And it's like, you know, getting divorced from people like that, like, you should have never got married, you know? And like I said, like, I've never been married, but most of my friends, they do have kids, they are married or whatever it is. And some of them are divorced, you know? And it's like, it's always interesting to me too, because it's like, you don't you don't get to go, you don't get to take a back seat and not accept criticism too. Like, a good friend of mine like I said, who I was on the phone with earlier, she goes, yeah, sometimes it's like I want to call you, but I'm not gonna call you in that moment, because I know you're gonna come correct me. And it's like, a lot of the times I'm not in that right mental health space to to get that information. I'm gonna take it as an attack, and I'm gonna take it as a reason as to to lash out. And she's like, I know that's not what you're doing. That's just me and my feelings and being hurt, whatever it is. And yeah, and it's true. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of people don't want to take accountability and understand that it's okay for you to feel that way. It's 100% okay. But what's not okay is you sitting there thinking that, oh, it's X, Y, and Z. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. In reality, it's not. In reality, it's something that a lot of people don't realize. Maybe they don't want to realize it. Maybe they want to be in denial with it, and like, that's fine. But please don't sit there and think that other people have to put up with your shit. That other people have to put up with with your drama and everything else, because there's nobody else's responsibility. And I don't think that love is wasted. I really don't think that. Other people may have a difference of opinion about it, but I don't. When I think about love, is like people come into your life, they teach you a few things, whether they stay for a season, a reason, or maybe a lifetime. Man, it's like we're not guaranteed a lifetime with people. You know, we're just guaranteed a moment, and however long that moment is. I used to tell my ex all the time. I used to tell her. I used to tell her that I want this for forever. For how long forever is, I don't know. I know it's not infinite because it can't be. But while we while we're sharing this moment together, I want to give you the best version of myself because that's what you deserve. And I think that's where a lot of people falter because it's like they want to hide their flaws, they want to hide their triggers, and it's like no, embrace them. If that's who you are, then that's who you are. Like stop thinking that oh yeah, it's X, Y, and Z, it's yada yada, and it's really not. It's something along the lines where people get it so misconstrued and so um what do you call that? They get so befuddled and confused by the situation. Notice how I said the same word two different ways. That they think that oh it's an end all be all and it's not. Um, Sometimes you have to look at the situation for what it is, and some people are never gonna get out their own way, and it's not your job to create a path for them to get out their own way. A lot of it has to do with the fact that people will sit there and they will not want to come to grips with the situation and not want to understand that yo, you are your own problem. Address your problems accordingly and keep it moving. But anyway, man, that's 20. This is about 23 minutes of your life that y'all won't get back. I hope y'all keeping the 4 P's. Private play, positive pushing. I'll see y'all next week. Like I always say, know your worth because you're better than what you are. All right, guys. Peace.